Market got that rebound that we were talking about could happen today, and it's setting up right at a point where we have a pivotal decision. Is this going to cross up and get into positive territory on a lot of charts, or are we going to see some kind of head and shoulders play out? Thanks for clicking on my video, and today we're going to be doing some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and NVIDIA. And we're going to throw a couple in there as well, such as IWM and AMD. So let's get into it. First off with the SPY. On the 30-minute for the SPY, we were paying attention to a possible head and shoulders. So we were kind of expecting price to get up in this area, which is exactly what's happening right now. So if this wants to break down from here, you would need this low to get taken out, and then we would set up a new low, kind of confirming this negative trend. So really pay attention to this on a 30-minute, but if we do want to head higher, then we could see this actually curl back up into positive territory and continue that positivity. We really want to pay attention to tomorrow as PCE comes out, and that's what the Fed really looks at in regards to inflation. Now, I wouldn't be surprised for us to be going up from here, right? Going up to that weekly expected move, maybe going and testing the all-time high even into next week. But as of right now, we do have that profit taking at the end of the year. People want their big bonuses. We mentioned that in the last video as well. And that looks like that could happen on low volume next week. So we just have to be open to that happening to the downside. But if this does go into positive territory, then you do have a good chance to come test this high. And if we break through that, then you do have a good chance to come up and test that all-time high. With yesterday's sell-off on the Qs, we actually see that we did come and fill this gap down here, right? We filled this gap, and then we actually started to head higher today, leaving behind a new one. So will we quickly come and fill this, come and cut this low, and then start that negative trend? Or, are we going to see this go higher while it goes into positive territory? Okay, so we really want to pay attention to this. Still be looking out to the upside for that trend line and for that weekly expected move. We most likely, if we do get up there pretty quickly tomorrow, we could be setting up some kind of divergence, and then we could see some major profit taking to get bonuses into the end of the year. Really to the downside, we still need to be paying attention to that possible cup that could form, right? And then get some kind of handle possibly around this and here, and that could lead us down. As of right now, we're not fully in the bearish state, right? Not all my signals have flipped to bearish on a daily or anything like that, but you can see on the 30-minute here how we are in that negative territory. So it's a time to just say, hey, we could still go up and we could still go down. So you just need to pay attention to tomorrow, see if we're getting another push higher, right? If we're getting that push higher, then you have that chance for more extension going into next week. But if we actually drop to lower levels, then you would be cutting out this low, kind of confirming that on the 30-minute, and then we'll actually look at higher charts and see if they're getting into some negative territory, starting those negative trends. IWM, similar story to the SPY, a little more structure in this, but we could see that we were planning on this setting up some kind of head and shoulders, right? We mentioned some kind of head and shoulders. I thought there was a possibility for us to come and fill this gap and then start to head up, actually. So we really just need to pay attention to this area in here. And if we do break below this area, pay attention to this gap because it's at the bottom of this very important zone. And we do like to use these types of zones. See how we got out of it? We do like to use them as springboards to go higher. So be looking out for that. But if this does break below here and you close outside of this zone, it's a good chance that you're actually going to see this full measured move play out. So let's see where that could actually lead us. And we actually could see that go down to a price point of about 190 before we get some kind of bounce. You'll notice it's very close to that positive territory. So if it does want to curl up one more time, I've just made a little trend between these highs for the shorter time frames, and it looks like that's a pretty good target. It's actually a very bullish sign to come outside of this zone because we've struggled in it so much. So that's why overall I am still leaning towards some kind of pullback, next week or going into January. Apple on the 30-minute has confirmed that negative territory on the 30-minute, okay? On the 30-minute, this one was a little bit more bearish on the daily, and I would even say that mine have flipped to those bearish signals. Now, at this point, though, you have to pay attention to these trends, right? If you're able to break above these types of areas, this could be some kind of flagging at this point, some kind of consolidation to head higher. So if it does start to break through this level, then we would really pay attention to this high and say it could come up to that high, it could make a new one, getting into positive territory. But it's a very good sign. You see how when we get into negative territory once, when we do curl over the second time, you create a new low because you're right next to that center line. So you're just looking for this to continue, and most likely you're looking for this to come up into areas like this and then sell off and get into this zone that we were talking about. On the shorter time frames for Apple, I'd really just pay attention to this I would actually say wedge at this point. It's kind of a consolidation in the form of a bullish wedge. So you want to pay attention if this is able to break to the upside or the downside in the near term. If it breaks to the upside, you're most likely going to go test this higher, make a new one. If it breaks to the downside, we're actually most likely heading towards this zone. So it's just a way to kind of be able to say, hey, in the long term, it looks like we do have that daily divergence, and we most likely will be heading down over the next couple weeks or into January. And the other side of the coin is, in the meantime, we have to pay attention to any kind of upward moves and see if we come test this high. Amazon's a little different. We haven't gotten that second dip, right? We haven't gotten that second dip down into the negative territory, so we really haven't solidified that negative trend. And that's why we're just paying attention to Amazon. Is it going to close down into lower levels, into that zone that we were in for quite some time, right? We were in this bit of a range for quite some time. So we want to see if price gets back down in there by the end of the week, and I think that will be very telling. But because we've been in such a bullish time, you have to be open to the upside. You're right next to that positive territory. If it does break through some resistances up here, if it cuts above this high, you will most likely be heading to that trend line right above you. Tesla, we were talking about all these divergences up here on the 30-minute, and that did break down, and now we're starting to see that come back up. So we are on a lot of charts leaving some gaps behind us, and maybe we do want to fill that before heading higher. But really, if this does curl over, I think you have a very good chance of taking out this low and ending up back in this zone down here that we were stuck in. Kind of like Amazon, we were stuck in this zone for quite some time. We pop out of it, but if we're able to get back in it, maybe that's a sign that all this was to get some people trapped, and we're actually going to see that profit taking come to play. We're going to see this breakdown. So we really have to pay attention to this because we are on light volume next week. And if we get this MACD to curl over and go to deeper levels, you're going to take out this low, you're going to make a new one, and that's going to end up right back in this zone. So really to the upside, we want to pay attention to that trend line we've been talking about. If you need to go to previous videos where we covered the daily, please go click on those on my channel. But for now, you can just say, hey, it's getting towards that positive territory, so you can come hit this. But if we do roll over, you most likely are setting up that negative trend with another low. NVIDIA was able to get a high, a lower high, and if it sets up another lower high, you're really going to say this is in a negative trend. So it could be coming into that little area we've been talking about. You know, on NVIDIA, we were talking about some kind of head and shoulders along this trend line here. So some kind of big left, head, and then a right shoulder in the future. So if we do head down to lower levels, look for that bounce up into this liquidity up here, and then see if we're able to cut below this trend line, because it's most likely at this point, as you are deep in that negative territory, that the negative trend has actually already begun on the 30-minute. So after it begins on the 30-minute, we just want to look at those higher time frames. We're going to look at those tomorrow and see if those are performing after tomorrow's price action. I didn't talk about AMD last episode, but you can see it's another good structured move. If we did head lower from here, you can see that we have this left side, we have a head, and we possibly have this right shoulder within all of this liquidity in here. So if we did want to get some kind of hip fire move up, that could just be some kind of retest. We could come test like this high here. We could test this closing. But if we don't violate this, meaning if we don't go above it, then you would still have that intact. And then this measured move here might actually play out. And that would end up being somewhere around a price point of 129. So we want to pay attention to this, to the bear side, because you are close to that negative territory. So if you do roll over, you have a very good shot of filling this gap and cutting this low, making a new one. And maybe we actually do break down, get some kind of small bounce, and then see that head to lower levels right around that 129 price point. Now, just be careful here because we do have a lot of bullishness still left in the market. And if we want to head higher, we will if this keeps going up into positive territory. Those yields getting a little bit of a bounce today, right? We're going up by 1.12% today. That hasn't closed as of now, but it will here in about 20 minutes. So we want to pay attention to this. If this rolls over on the MACD, then you have a good chance of this actually coming up to levels such as 4.362 is what I have marked off. That's the previous high that we actually broke through when we actually started selling off. So I want to pay attention to that level. If we get a big reaction, we can come all the way up to 4.805, but I'm not really seeing that as of right now. So I just want to pay attention if this MACD is able to roll over, right? If it rolls up and then it actually comes back down around this 4.362, we could see this MACD roll up for a couple weeks here and then come back down and cross in negative territory, which is a good sign that these yields are going to go down further and maybe even break below this channel that we've been in for quite some time, which will seem bullish in the near term when it happens. The dollar, we're still waiting for this divergence to kind of prove itself, right? We've noticed this divergence for quite some time, and we were overall saying, hey, we could move sideways and then get some kind of reaction down, touch this little trend in here, and then start to head upward. So we just really want to pay attention to the dollar. Yes, we are still in a bullish time here. Yesterday did scare a lot of people out, but we can see that we have this divergence, and maybe that's just the first signal that, hey, some selling is coming very soon. Just want to pay attention to if the dollar is able to curl up, because this divergence will be very strong. It's on a daily chart, and we could see a big reaction out of the dollar coming over the next few weeks. And the VIX got really, really tight in the Bollinger Bands. We closed above the 20, we closed above the 9, and even though we had a pretty bullish day, right, we're up almost 1% on the SPY, we still have that VIX above the 9 and the 20 at the same time. So it's just a time to still be cautious. I overall said that we did get some reversal signals on certain charts and on the lower time frames, but you don't have those reversal on the bigger time frames like the daily at this point. So we have to wait for this to get a bigger reaction and really convince us that those negative trends are holding at this point. VIX would be good if we get continued bullishness. If we continue to squeeze, we actually could see this head to lower levels and turn back around later on, maybe curling over this MACD, giving us some kind of divergence. Okay, so we just want to point that out because we are in a bullish time here. Most of the time at the end of the year, we do see some profit taking in order, to book those profits and get your bonuses. So it's something to pay attention to. But right now, the VIX is still close together, so some kind of sell-off most likely is coming in this market. The main takeaway for this video is not a lot of unexpected things happened today, right? We kind of expected a little bit of a bounce today, and going into tomorrow, something more unexpected could happen. So I am still going to put out a video come actually Monday night. So tune back in for Monday night as we will be looking at the week ahead, but tune in on Saturday morning if you want to see some weekly charts and show you guys those bad things that could be coming in 2024. So I wish you guys all the luck in the world tomorrow. I hope you have a great Christmas. And other than that, good night.